Among history's most remarkable figures, Catherine Howard was born sometime between 1522 and 1525 in Lambeth, Surrey. Her father, Edmund Howard, was a nobleman struggling with financial difficulties, while her mother, Joyce Culpeper, came from a well-connected family. Catherine was one of 11 children who survived into adulthood. Despite being part of an influential family, Catherine's early life was marked by financial struggles. Her father had limited means and often found himself in debt. To improve their situation, he served as a local justice of the peace and later became comptroller of Calais. However, his financial troubles continued, forcing the family to rely on the support of relatives. When Catherine was about 6 years old, her mother passed away. Following the common practice of the time, some of the children were sent to live with extended family members. Catherine found herself in the care of Agnes Howard, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, a powerful noblewoman. In her household, Catherine was exposed to the customs and expectations of the English aristocracy. Although Catherine's exact birth year remains uncertain, historical records suggest she was still quite young when she was sent away to be raised in the Duchess's household. This move would play a crucial role in shaping her future, preparing her for a life at court and setting the stage for the dramatic events that would later unfold in her life. Catherine Howard was born into the powerful Howard family, one of the most influential noble families in England. Her father, Edmund Howard, was the younger son of the Duke of Norfolk, which gave Catherine a strong noble lineage. However, despite his aristocratic background, Edmund struggled financially. Unlike his wealthier relatives, he lacked the resources to support his large family comfortably. Catherine's mother, Joyce Culpeper, had previously been married and had 5 children before marrying Edmund. With 6 more children from her second marriage, Catherine grew up in a household with many siblings. Life in the Howard family was not always luxurious, as Edmund constantly faced financial difficulties. He relied on the generosity of relatives and took government positions, such as serving as comptroller of Calais, to improve his financial situation. After Catherine's mother passed away in 1528, her father remarried, and the children were placed in the care of other relatives. This was a common practice among noble families, as it ensured children received proper education and upbringing. Catherine was sent to live with Agnes Howard, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, a movie that significantly shaped her future. Under the care of the Dowager Duchess, Catherine was introduced to the customs and expectations of noble society. The household was filled with young wards, and Catherine's experiences there would influence the course of her life, preparing her for the world of the royal court. Catherine lived in a large household filled with many other young women from noble and gentry families. The girls were expected to follow strict rules, but the Duchess, who was in her 70s, struggled to manage them all. Catherine and her companions lived in the Maiden's Chamber, a dormitory-like setting where supervision was often lax. Without strict discipline, many of the young women enjoyed a degree of freedom rarely found in noble households. Despite the somewhat unstructured atmosphere, Catherine's noble status gave her privileges that other wards did not have. She was one of the few allowed to dine with the Duchess, and her Howard lineage gave her a higher status among the other girls. However, this freedom also exposed her to influences that would later contribute to her downfall. During her years in the Duchess's care, Catherine developed the charm and social skills that would later attract the attention of King Henry VIII. However, the lack of strict guidance also led to personal choices that would have serious consequences. Like many noble girls of the time, Catherine Howard received an education focused on preparing her for life at court. During her years in the household of the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, she learned essential skills expected of an aristocratic lady. These included proper manners, conversation, music, and dancing. Catherine was taught how to read and write, though her education in academic subjects was limited compared to the daughters of royalty. She studied basic literacy, but there is no evidence that she received formal training in history, philosophy, or foreign languages, as some noblewomen did. Instead, her lessons centered on etiquette, household management, and social graces, all of which were highly valued at court. One of Catherine's greatest strengths was her ability to dance. She became known for her grace and skill, impressing those around her with her performances. She also learned to play musical instruments, such as the virginal and the lute, though her interest in music seems to have faded over time. While Catherine's formal education was relatively simple, the social influences around her had a profound effect on her development. The lack of strict supervision in the maiden's chamber allowed the young girls to interact freely, sometimes leading to inappropriate relationships. Catherine's charm and playful nature made her popular, but her experiences in the Duchess's household would later be used against her when she became queen. During her time in the household of the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, Catherine Howard became involved in relationships that would later damage her reputation. The lack of strict supervision in the maiden's chamber allowed young women and men in the household to interact with little oversight. This environment played a role in shaping Catherine's early experiences with romance. One of her first known relationships was with Henry Mannix, a musician who was at least 10 years older than Catherine. Mannix was her music tutor, and their relationship soon became personal. Some historians argue that Mannix manipulated Catherine due to her young age, while others believe she may have willingly participated. Regardless, their interactions were considered improper for a noblewoman, and when Catherine discovered that Mannix had spoken about her dishonorably, she ended their relationship. Shortly afterward, Catherine formed a deeper attachment to Francis Derham, a secretary in the household. Their relationship was more serious, and they referred to each other as husband and wife. They exchanged love tokens, and evidence suggests they were physically involved. In Tudor society, such a relationship could have been considered a form of pre-marriage contract. However, the Dowager Duchess eventually discovered their affair and put an end to it. Although these relationships ended before Catherine went to court, rumors about them would resurface later, contributing to the tragic downfall that awaited her. In the autumn of 1539, Catherine Howard's life changed dramatically when she was chosen to serve as a lady-in-waiting to Anne of Cleves, the new wife of King Henry VIII. This position placed Catherine in close proximity to the royal court, allowing her to gain favor and attention. Catherine's beauty, charm, and graceful manners quickly made her stand out. She was young, lively, and full of energy, a stark contrast to Anne of Cleves, who struggled to win Henry's affection. Before long, the king began to take a personal interest in Catherine. By early 1540, rumors spread that Henry was captivated by her, visiting her residence frequently and bestowing gifts upon her. The powerful Howard family saw Catherine as an opportunity to regain influence at court. Her uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, encouraged her relationship with the king, hoping it would strengthen the family's position. Catherine, still a teenager, was likely guided by her relatives on how to please Henry and secure his favor. By the summer of 1540, Henry was actively seeking to annul his marriage to Anne of Cleves. Just days after the annulment was finalized, he married Catherine in a private ceremony on July 28th. At around 17 years old, Catherine became Queen of England, stepping into a role that would bring her both immense power and eventual tragedy. On July 28, 1540, Catherine Howard became the fifth wife of King Henry VIII. Their wedding took place in a private ceremony, only a few days after the king's marriage to Anne of Cleves was officially annulled. At around 17 years old, Catherine was now Queen of England, stepping into a position of immense power and responsibility. Henry, nearing 50, was completely infatuated with his young bride. He showered her with lavish gifts, including jewelry, fine clothing, and estates. The court quickly took notice of his open affection for Catherine, with ambassadors reporting how the king appeared revitalized by his new marriage. Many saw Catherine as a source of joy for Henry, who had endured years of disappointment and political struggles. Catherine's motto, "No other will but his," reflected her desire to please the king. She embraced her role as queen, participating in court festivities, dances, and public celebrations. Despite the luxuries of her new life, her position was not without challenges. The Howard family had high expectations for her, and political factions at court closely watched her every move. As the months passed, Henry's health continued to decline, and his unpredictable temper became more pronounced. Catherine, still young and inexperienced, found herself in a complicated position, expected to keep the aging king happy while navigating the dangerous politics of the Tudor court. As Queen of England, Catherine Howard embraced her new role with youthful energy and charm. She was adored for her beauty and grace, and the king, deeply infatuated, lavished her with jewels, fine clothing, and extravagant gifts. Courtiers noted his open affection, and Catherine quickly became the center of attention at court. Despite the splendor, Catherine's position was precarious. The Tudor court was a dangerous place, filled with political rivalries and secret alliances. Her powerful family expected her to strengthen their influence, while other factions sought to undermine her. She navigated courtly politics carefully, favoring those who supported her rise while trying to maintain the king's unwavering devotion. Catherine worked to build relationships with the king's children and even showed kindness toward his previous wife, Anne of Cleves. She interceded on behalf of prisoners, proving her compassionate nature. However, her youth and lack of political experience made her vulnerable to courtly manipulation. As the king's health worsened, she found herself isolated, surrounded by those eager to exploit her position. Though she appeared to be thriving, whispers about her past began circulating. Enemies at court saw an opportunity to bring her down, setting in motion the tragic chain of events that would lead to her downfall. Catherine Howard's time as queen came to a shocking and sudden end in late 1541 when accusations about her past relationships surfaced. A court informant, John Lascelles, brought forward claims that Catherine had engaged in inappropriate behavior before her marriage. His sister, Mary Lascelles, who had served in the household of the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk, provided testimony detailing Catherine's past relationships with Henry Manox and Francis Dereham. When Archbishop Thomas Cranmer presented these accusations to King Henry VIII, the king was devastated. He had believed Catherine to be pure before their marriage, and these revelations wounded his pride deeply. Henry ordered an immediate investigation, and Catherine was placed under house arrest. As more details emerged, Francis Dereham and Thomas Culpeper, a close member of the king's household, were arrested and interrogated. Under pressure, Dereham admitted to his past relationship with Catherine, while Culpeper acknowledged that he had been involved with the queen after her marriage. Although there was no definitive proof of adultery, Catherine's secret meetings with Culpeper and her past with Dereham were enough for Henry to consider her unfaithful. In Tudor law, a queen's infidelity was considered treason. By early 1542, Parliament passed an Act of Attainder against Catherine, sealing her fate. The once beloved queen was stripped of her titles and sent to the Tower of London to await execution. On February 13, 1542, Catherine Howard was led to the scaffold at the Tower of London. Despite her young age, she faced her execution with remarkable composure. The night before, she requested to practice placing her head on the block, determined to meet her fate with dignity. When the moment arrived, she spoke calmly, accepting responsibility for her actions and asking for prayers. She did not defend herself or accuse others, but instead followed the traditional execution speech, expressing regret and loyalty to the king. Within moments, the axe fell, ending the brief and tragic life of Henry VIII's fifth wife. She was buried in an unmarked grave in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, near Anne Boleyn, another queen executed by Henry. Catherine's downfall has long been debated by historians. Earlier accounts painted her as foolish and reckless, while more recent perspectives suggest she was a victim of an unforgiving system that controlled women's lives. Some argue that she was manipulated from a young age, while others believe she was simply a girl who made mistakes in a world that allowed her no second chances. What do you think of Catherine Howard? Was she a naive teenager caught in political schemes, or did she knowingly make choices that led to her downfall? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more historical insights. Thank you very much for watching.